After we finished streaming Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity and its associated DLC, there were just so many standout character moments, which is a difficult thing to do given the wide and storied cast.
With nearly 3 hours of cinematics in between the gameplay alone, it often felt like we were watching a movie transpire before our very eyes that we got personally attached to.
The Legend of Zelda is easily one of our favorite gaming series of all time, and we have always resonated with the different approaches to storytelling featured in many of the games, particularly Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, and Breath of the Wild.
One thing that really stood out from this particular game that spawned some deep conversations between each other is the relationship between Astor, the Prophet of Doom, the main antagonist, and the Yiga Clan, a flagrant fork of the Sheikah, opposed to Hylian royalty, devious and deadly in nature.
To us, Astor represents the type of person in your life that offered comfort for the wrong reasons, but sounded enticing because maybe you didn't really have anywhere else to turn to. Oftentimes, our perspective can only be defined by our immediate surroundings and experiences, and it can make it difficult to see someone's true intentions.
He also represents the people in your life who have used you, manipulated you, or strung you along in order to get what they want. And the moment you're no longer useful, they hurt you, leaving you worse off than before.
Maybe this is all just growing pains, just a part of growing up. Or maybe it's more commonplace than we think. Is there someone that comes to mind?
When Astor first made his appearance, it completely threw us off since he was never mentioned anywhere in Breath of the Wild. We were expecting Ganon, or some form of him, to be the bad guy like usual. Maybe even some disembodied manifestation of the Malice pulling the strings in the background while Hyrule goes to war?
But instead, we have Astor, someone who fanatically revered Ganon and wanted to cause havoc in his name in order to prove himself worthy of Ganon's favor when his cult fell apart.
After the gruesome fallout, Astor worked closely with the Yiga Clan in order to bring Calamity Ganon back to Hyrule. However, the Yiga were simply a means to an end.
After a devastating loss, Astor doubles down on this notion and tells them that they have their part to play and nothing more. Later down the line, he straight up uses the Yiga for a blood sacrifice right in front of their leader.
Thankfully, if you could even say that at this point, this was the point of no return for their working relationship. It was a callback to all the times Astor had previously interacted with the concerned Yiga leaders when things kept not going their way in this war.
This part in particular, when he said, "We will need each other's help if we are to achieve our grand purpose." He says stuff like this all the time to pacify and manipulate, all while doing it in the fear-inducing name of Calamity Ganon.
Astor always uses this type of language to lead the Yiga on, and when the partnership has run its course, he quickly flips the switch.
And so it got us thinking, are the Yiga the true victims in Age of Calamity's story? Not saying they were the only ones who experienced pain and loss, far from it, but they believed in a better future for their clan.
They really thought getting in on Calamity Ganon's good side early on would somehow result in the prosperity of their clan. Maybe it was their ignorance and their hubris that clouded their judgment?
For every red flag Astor waved in their face, he always had some way to explain it, and they just went along with it.
In fact, is it just us, or are the Yiga strangely relatable here? Not with the whole bring an end to Hyrule thing, but to believe what you are doing will make things better if you stick with it. Are we way off base, or have you ever felt like the Yiga?
Maybe not to the same extremes like being sacrificed for a blood ritual or anything, because, well, clearly you are watching this video right now, so kudos to you, but perhaps at some point felt used and defeated, left questioning your loyalties, your relationships, and even your self-worth in an unhealthy and deprecating way.
It can feel like a betrayal when you believe in someone or something wholeheartedly, and when that trust is broken, your heart is the one that is left in pieces. In this case, the Yiga were left scattered, isolated, destitute, and crushed. Only once they accepted Astor for the snake that he was, did they have true freedom.
The freedom to believe in themselves, to make a difference for good, and to align with those who would rather work together as a unit, the people of Hyrule, rather than believe in some unholier-than-art-thou cultist fanatic.
There are so many transitional periods in our lives that change who and how we interact with daily. Each person we come across impacts us, whether they were in our lives for one day, a decade, or even longer.
It doesn't feel good when you put your trust in your family, friends, coworkers, mentors, or even a crazy cultist like Astor, who promises you greatness only to let you down, explain away any shortcomings, and gaslight you into thinking you got it all wrong about them.
However, every painful experience is a moment to learn and grow. We wish it didn't have to be this way sometimes, but there are basically two ways to go about this.
One, you can be hurt and hold on to that anger, close yourself off, and miss out on potentially great friendships, relationships, and moments to bond with people.
Or two, you can be hurt, take time to process, learn how to identify what went wrong or felt wrong that you initially ignored, and adapt to avoid falling into the same pitfalls that got you there in the first place.
Hopefully, with enough meaningful and intentional introspection and a willingness to put yourself out there at the risk of being vulnerable, we can all find those connections that feed our souls for the better. So when something truly malicious crosses our paths, we're ready.
If you resonated with our thoughts or have more insights to add to the conversation, we'd love to hear your perspective.
So please comment below, and thank you so much for watching.
We'd also like to thank our phenomenal patron globs on Patreon who we originally shared these thoughts with in an exclusive post shortly after we finished streaming Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity over a year ago.
If you'd like to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.